CIL 650 presents It's Your Money, an up-close and personal look at your finances. Here's your host, Fred Snyder.
Up in the morning and out to school.
The music begins, and we're back. Our mission is to teach you what you need to know to make better financial decisions. That's what this show is all about. And the show is live. And we share this show with you, our listeners. And we want you and we expect you to call. We want to have conversations with you about your money, but more importantly, about your money and how to keep it. How to keep it is the key phrase, because most people don't do a very good job of that. They earn a lot of money. They spend more than they earn. They end up in retirement or near retirement broke, depending on charity and the government. Those are the sad statistics. There's 7 billion people in the world. If you just look at the world as a whole, half the people in the world live on less than $1 a day. Just think about that. We have it pretty good in this country because I don't think the numbers are nearly that bad here. Anyway, we're here to talk about that and much, much more. And we're going to focus again on estate planning today. And joining me is Timothy Lack. He's with Lunny Atmore, and he specializes in estate planning. And I work closely with him when it comes to the financial planning step in the financial process. So welcome again. Welcome
Thanks,
back,
Fred.
Tim.
It's nice to get up early and be on your show with you.
Let's talk about, let's get right to the chase. Let's talk about estate planning. What is it? What's it mean?
Oh, estate planning, you're asking me, Fred?
Yeah.
I'll be happy to jump in with that one. I guess estate planning is best defined as making sure that at the end of your life, and we all die, we all know that you've arranged your affairs to minimize the tax implications of passing on your assets.
So it's the transition of your assets to your beneficiaries, your children, your grandchildren. It's your legacy.
Yes.
And I mentioned before on a previous program, it's about love. It's about the disposition of your body. When you pass away, do you want to be buried in a coffin? You want to be cremated? You want to donate your organs? What are your wishes at that particular point in time? And that's got to be part of the plan. In capital letters, the plan. So estate planning is only one section. It's a plan within a plan. An overall financial plan has many sections to it. But one of the sections is estate planning or your legacy. So what are you going to leave behind? How can you manage your assets, so to speak, from the grave? Because you can't take it with you. Some people would like to, but you just can't. Wish you could.
Yes, a lot of people would like to take it with them. I think my father's in that boat. But Fred, I love the fact that you used the word love. I mean, when I first appeared on your show a few months ago, I wrote that word down at the top of my notes on preparing wills and estate planning is love, because I think it's the right word to describe why you're doing it in the first place.
Well, if, we probably don't have an accurate statistics on this, but I'll bet you that most of the people who are listening to this show right now, the vast majority of the people listening to this show right now, don't have a proper up-to-date will. Would that be fair to say?
I get phone calls every day, all day, about people wanting to do a will or update their will. And we all know that if you die without one, and that's called an intestacy, there are rules that will come into play and make the disposition of your assets done for you according to what the government thinks it should be done.
Well, I'd like to say that everybody's got a will, whether you write one formally or not. You have the one that you write, or you have the one the government writes for you if you don't have one.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. That's right. Under the Wills, Estates, and Succession Planning Act, often referred to as WESA, there's a sort of formula in place for people who die without a will. So people who die intestate, there's a almost like a schematic of what happens if you have a spouse but no kids, a spouse and kids, no spouse, no kids, and it says what happens to your assets.
Okay, now what are we going to give away today to encourage people to phone? Okay, now I have a great book on estate planning, wills and estate planning, worth about $35 with a CD. I'll give that away.
I want one too.
Okay, but you got to call the show. You can't call Frida and say, send me one. I'd be giving away millions of dollars worth of books. I mean, the price you pay to get the book is to make a call, contribute to this radio show. I want our listeners to make a contribution to this show. So to reward you for making that contribution, we're going to give that book away. We also have a will instructions kit. Send you that too, okay? But you got to call the show. Fair ball?
Fair.
Okay.
And I'll throw in a business card.
And you'll throw in a business. And you won't give away a free will.
No.
Okay. So anyway, we want to share this show with you, our listeners, and we want you to make a meaningful contribution to the show. And you do so by making a phone call. The number to call is area code 604-280-0650. I'm going to repeat it, 604-280-0650. The station's call letters are 650, so that's the last 3 digits, so that's fairly easy to remember. Once again, 604-280-0650. If you're calling long distance, it's 1-877-280-0650. Now you can log on. You can see what we're talking about. You can log on to www.CIL650.com. You can see what we look like. You can see the screen that's behind me. We can blow that up so you can get a good idea of what the overview is. So log on. Now, if you're shy or reluctant to talk on the air, you can talk to Frida. She's down at the office at area code 604-737-3512. That's 604-737-3512. Long distance is 1-800-661-1495. Remind you once again, listeners, that we're talking about your money, more importantly, about your money and how to keep it. And the station is 650 CIL. So log on. Listen to the show. Phone in. Participate in the show. And we also have a seminar coming up, so if you call Frida, you can book a seat at our next seminar, which will be 41 Ways to Ease the Tax Bite, and I believe I'll have Tim welcome. I'm bringing him there as a guest. So call us. Let's talk about your money. Let's talk about your money problems. Now, I often say this so much they sound like a broken record, but if you take 100 people who start out equal today at the age of 25, by the time they end up at 65, 1 is wealthy. 4 are well-to-do, 5 are still working, 36 are dead, and there's 54 left. They're dead broke, dependent on family and state. So let's talk about the people at the top, the people who have some degree of success financially. There's 5 of them. 1 is very rich, 4 are well-to-do. Let's talk about those people, because those people have problems. Being wealthy doesn't mean you don't have financial problems, but you got a whole new set of problems when you're wealthy. You got inflation. Half of those people, by the time they're 70, are financially dependent because they didn't deal with the issue of inflation. Didn't get a good enough return on their money. They invested in the wrong kind of investments and they lost their money. Or they just spent too much. They didn't have a financial plan. So they become financially dependent because they did not deal with the problems that wealthy people have. And one of the problems that wealthy people have is, how do I pass my assets on to my children, my beneficiaries, without them fighting over it and without the government grabbing it all in taxes? It said that the U.S. government took 78% of Elvis Presley's estate. They're talking right now in the States about eliminating death taxes. Totally. There's going to be a vote on it. You think that'll happen?
Who's Elvis Presley? I'm joking.
I was wondering about you there for a minute.
I'm taking a dig at your age there, Fred.
I was wondering about you there for a minute. Remember the first time you heard Elvis Presley?
Yeah, on those vinyl records my parents had.
Don't be cruel. Okay, don't be cruel. Get yourself a financial plan. Okay, let's take some calls. Let's talk to Victor from Surrey. Victor, thanks for calling.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Victor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question on the probated will. Can it be challenged by any beneficiary?
I couldn't hear your question. Could you repeat it again, Victor?
When the will is probated,
Yes.
Can it be challenged by a beneficiary in court?
Yes.
It can be, eh?
Certain kinds of beneficiaries have that right to challenge a will, and that would be a spouse or children. Those are the people that can challenge a will. The idea being that you should be morally responsible for your spouse and your children with respect to how you divide up your estate. But it's not open to just to anybody.
I see. Only the persons that are really affected by that will, eh?
No, I'm gonna repeat it. It's spouse and children, Victor, not just.
Okay, spouse and children. Okay. Okay.
And you have to treat them fairly. They have to be dealt with fairly under the rules.
Okay. 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 I have another question.
Sure.
When you you prepared your will here or got probated here, can it can it cross international boundaries? Supposing I'm from the Philippines, would that will that I make here be valid down there, or do I have to go through the legal route, the legal process back home?
With respect to probating in different jurisdictions, if there are assets in other jurisdictions, you may have the financial institutions or some governing authorities saying they're not going to accept the Canadian probate and insist that it be probated in their jurisdiction. For example, let's say to deal with real estate in somewhere outside of British Columbia.
Yes. I see.
So, for example, in Ontario, that's what I'm doing for an Ontario woman who passed away. We're taking the Ontario probate and we're dealing with the BC registry here to have that Ontario probate confirmed so that we can deal with a condo that she owned in Vancouver.
So, do you think it will be a good idea to have two wills then, one back home and one here, to split the assets?
I can't speak for the Philippines. You might want to speak with someone who knows about Philippine law and probate, but it's probably not a bad idea if you have assets in the Philippines.
I see. Good. I guess that's about it.
Where can you get more information on something like that? Google?
Yeah, perhaps, or a Philippines lawyer, or maybe the consulate here in town.
Yeah, I guess.
I wish I had a better answer for you. And
Okay.
I probably will get that question more and more. The Philippines I understand, is the fastest growing ethnic group in British Columbia. It's not the largest,
Really?
but it's the fastest growing.
That's true. Okay, thank you.
Victor, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call, and because you made the call, you get that book that we talked about. You get the will kit. See it at our next workshop.
Okay,
And all you have
good.
to do is you get a second opinion on your investment portfolio if you have one, a written financial plan, no cost whatsoever. All you got to do is get free to call.
Okay, so I'll do that then.
Okay, Victor, appreciate your call. You take
Thank
care.
you,
Have a
Fred.
good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, if you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also registered financial planner representing Scotia McLeod, and my mission is to teach people what they need to know to make better financial decisions. That's what it's all about. And throughout our lives, we make financial decisions. Some are good and some are bad, and it's the ones that we get right that count. Okay, and too many people are operating without a written financial plan. They don't have a financial plan. So what's a financial plan look like? So again, we can blow that one up on the screen. So if you can see that, if you blow that up on the screen, that's the financial planning process. I call that the 10-step financial planning process. So visualize yourself with a book, a binder, and the binder has 10 sections in it. One of them is on education. One of them is on goals. One of them is how to evaluate where you stand right now. Number 4 is managing your cash. Number 5 is managing risk. Number 6 is getting rid of bad debt. Number 7 is your retirement plan. Number 8 is your capital creation plan. Number 9 is your estate plan, and that's what we're talking about today, number 9. And number 10 is the overall review process. If you lack any of those, you're in bad shape because you need them all. You need to keep your information up to date. That's the educational process, and that's what we talk about on this show. So again, that's what a financial plan looks like. I don't want to dwell on it. I could do the whole show just on that one particular slide. But we're focusing on number 9, which is estate planning. So let's take some calls. Let's talk to Barbara from Vancouver. Barbara, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks, Fred. Yeah, I'm just wondering about fees. I mean, what would be an average amount to manage money for a year? Is it like 4%, 2%? Is there an average?
It varies. That's subject to negotiation with your financial advisor.
Okay, because I figured, if you get a return of like 4%, and they're getting you a return of 4, it kind of cancels that out. So you might as well go on your own, right?
Well, my financial analysis software, and I'll just take one. I have a number of custom portfolios that I use, and if I refer to portfolio 8.5, the average annualized rate of return on that compounded annually net to the client over the previous 5 years is just shy of 10%. And that's after fees.
Oh, that's after fees.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So most of the numbers that are published are after fees, not before fees.
Oh, that's
so
really
you don't get 10%, then they take 2 off that for managing it, and then you're left with 8.
Right.
Now, most of the numbers that are quoted, the way they quote, it's not always that way, but most of the time the numbers are quoted, they're net of fees.
Okay.
So if an investment fund has what they call a management expense ratio, we'll say of 2.5%, and it's advertising a 10% rate of return, that 10% rate of return is usually net of fees.
Okay.
So you got to make that distinction.
Gotcha.
So if you pay 2.5 to get 10 net, that's a pretty good deal.
Okay.
There's an old saying, some people know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. And that's a good bottom line, because everything has a cost somehow or another. And what does it cost is a good question.
Okay. Oh, here's another question.
Yeah.
I was enrolled for the Mars one, mission to colonize Mars.
Well, were you?
Yeah, and so what would happen, since your guest has to do with estate planning, how would that work for, if I was off-world? Would that still apply?
Well, that's an awesome question. I don't know. Do you?
I've never been asked that.
Yeah.
But then I guess going to Mars is something new to most people.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't have the foggiest idea right now. Maybe that's a good one to Google.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
How does estate planning apply to a native of Mars?
Right.
That would be a good one.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
your call. We know what it is between countries, but what about between planets?
I think I'll retire before that question gets asked again.
Probably. Okay. So again, we're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. We're taking your calls. We're giving stuff away, a nice will kit, a will planning document that you can fill in, which helps save your time when you sit down with a lawyer. We're talking about that. We're talking about all the issues of estate planning, enduring powers of attorney, representation agreements. Mm-hmm. These are all issues. These are all tools that you need to use, and you need to know how to use them. And you need information to do that, and you can get that information by giving us a call. And I remind you once again, we're live. And this show will be replayed again tomorrow between 10 and 11 on this station. So again, it won't be live, it'll be a replay. But again, if you want to take it to the next step, you can call Frida, and you can talk to Frida. You can get her at area code 604-737-3512. If you're calling long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. You want to talk to us live, you want to participate in the show, you want to get some of the stuff that we're giving away to encourage you to call, 604-280-0650. Long distance, 877-280-0650. We have Barbara on the line. Let's talk to Barbara. Barbara's gone. Thought we talked to her earlier. Yeah, okay. So get on the line, give us a call. So Tim, what are some of the mistakes that people make? Is it okay to write your own will, for an example? Like, when it comes to estate planning, what kind of mistakes get made? And I'm sure you see them all the time.
One of the words when we use estate planning is the word planning. You should be sitting down with a professional, whether it's your accountant, your financial planner, or a lawyer to map things out. I spoke with a senior lawyer who practices in the area of estate planning. He goes, sometimes I sit down for hours with people, go over their affairs, and we don't change anything. And they feel like they didn't get their money's worth with the lawyer because he didn't make any changes. But, sitting down, mapping out what you want to do, and looking at how you've arranged your affairs is an important thing. And it probably starts with the will.
Well, when we look at the last two steps in the financial planning process, 9 and 10, 9 is your estate plan, but 10 is your review process. So how often should your will be reviewed? Now, you alluded to the term WESA earlier. That's recent changes.
That's in the
estate,
past year.
Yeah. So what are some of the changes which have taken place?
Well, I think they've given more emphasis on what's the intention behind the will. as opposed to what is the black and white in the document itself.
Well, I heard
That's the best way to describe the changes, I think.
I heard somewhere that if I sent my son an email that said I'm going to give my boat to you, that's almost a given. Is that correct?
Well, certainly that's the type of thing that in the past the courts wouldn't have given much attention to, and now they're looking at what was the intention, what was documented, what was said, how was it said, how was it communicated, and what's in there.
If I took him out fishing one day and I told him I'm going to give you the boat when I die, would that apply?
I don't know about
It'd be
that
hard
one.
to prove, wouldn't it?
I don't know, but that'd be a hard one to prove, especially with just you and your son on the boat.
But what if he's got a tape recorder? Anyway, it's not as black and white as it used to be.
That's right. That's right. The will, I mean, there was lots of defective wills in the past, and I think Wes is trying to help people who otherwise had their intentions documented but didn't fall within the black and white of the law as to what needed to be, how it needed to be presented.
So what if I have a will?
Yep.
And it's contested? And let's say that it's found that the will isn't fair. It didn't give enough to one of my sons or something like that.
The courts may reapportion the way you do.
So that doesn't make the whole will invalid. It means that they fix it.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And that does happen.
How frequently?
I don't know. I don't know how often it gets contested, but I've been through a few where perhaps in one case it was the deceased didn't approve of the lifestyle of one of their child's, and she contested it successfully, that she was excluded simply because her mother didn't like her lifestyle.
And when it's contested, this can tie that up for a long time.
Yes, it does.
How long?
Oh,
give or take.
Something like that can go on for well over a year.
So if you could avoid, like let's suppose you have 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really matter what the number is. Arbitrarily, we'll say 3. Okay. And you decide that you don't like the lifestyle of one of them. You want to leave them out of the will. You're still alive. You could buy segregated mutual funds, and you could make the 2 that you want to get the money beneficiaries and exclude the 3rd one. Would that fly?
I guess you could do that because the mutual fund beneficiaries wouldn't go through the estate. Yeah. You're naming your beneficiaries of an asset, so you're not looking to the will to see how that asset is going to be divided up because you've named a beneficiary.
In the new budget proposal that just came out, is there any changes there that would affect the
I
states?
haven't sat down with my summary of the budget proposals yet. I was going to do it over the weekend.
Yeah, I meant to do it this weekend myself. I haven't had a chance. But that doesn't all become law until it's ratified, right?
That's right.
There's proposed changes in the TFSA rules where you can put $10,000 into a TFSA. And in a sense, because you can name a beneficiary on a TFSA, that bypasses the estate.
Again, that's right. And that's part of the estate planning process is what assets are going to be probated by virtue of being part of your estate and which assets are going to skip probate by having beneficiaries named in that asset.
So assets that are held jointly with rights of survivorship, assets where you can name a beneficiary, bypass estate.
That's right. And let's just touch on the first one. When we say joint tenancy or the successor under a joint ownership, what most couples who own a property in British Columbia, you'll look at title to their home, it'll say the wife's name, the husband's name as joint tenants. The word tenancy, don't confuse that with renting. Yeah. It's a legal term that says that the person who dies first, their asset their interest in that asset flows to the successor under that joint tenancy.
Are there any tax consequences?
Not with the first to die.
Okay. And if it's principal residence, there isn't any.
That's right.
But if it's rental property, there is.
Yeah. Eventually there will be, yes. Okay.
Let's talk to Maddie from Burnaby. Maddie, welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hi, Maddie. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
You have a question?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I am a widow and no children. I have a joint bank account for checking, savings, and term deposits. Will this account bypass a probate when I die?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of that, but
got
it sounds like you
joint-
said
joint
you had
bank accounts.
a bank account that's held jointly, and who's it held jointly with, Maddie?
I beg your pardon?
Who is the bank account held jointly with? Who's the other person on there with you?
With a nephew-in-law.
A nephew-in-law. So,
Yeah.
in that case, when you die, your name will drop from that account in all likelihood, and your nephew will carry on with that account.
Oh, I see.
He'll become the new owner.
Okay.
Just
How-
like. Oh, go ahead.
How about the TFSA? I have a beneficiary. Will it be probated too?
It
No.
should not be.
Bypasses probate. It goes to the beneficiary.
Oh, okay. I'm interested in updating my will, but Tim Rock office is in downtown area. Do you have any office uptown?
No, we only have one location, Maddie. I'm sorry.
Oh,
But there's
okay.
lots of good lawyers in this province. I think we're up to 10,000 lawyers. And there's lots of good ones in Burnaby as well. So,
Well, I have one that draw I got a will of 10, 15 years, I guess.
uh-huh.
And I have some changes I want to do. But I guess if I cannot come to your office, I will go back to him.
Well, I'm close to transit, if that helps. But
Yeah, but apparently I looked in it. It's two blocks from the SkyTrain, and
you've done your research, Maddie.
Maddie,
so
I'll tell you
I
what, Maddie.
I can't walk around that long. And it's also uphill because I used to go down there for my massage therapy,
Oh.
and I gave that up because of the uphill business. Anyway,
I have a long list of lawyers that I work with. I'm sure I can find you a lawyer that's close to you.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if-
anyway, going back to this problem.
If he's still practicing, it probably will serve you well. You might even save a bit of money by going back to the same lawyer.
Yeah. Well, going back to Fred, I don't have much. I don't want to invest anymore because I am 76 years old, and I don't have any family anyway. So I don't want to be investing. Should I be seeing Fred still, or do I need to see him?
Well, if you want if you haven't, do you have a financial plan right now?
No, I plan my own.
Well, that's why you should see me.
I am good. I don't spend all my money. I still save some, but.
Well, if you want a financial plan, then you should see me.
Oh, I still should.
And you should have everybody should have a financial plan. I don't care if you're 100 years of age, you should have a financial plan.
Even if I don't have much money?
Yes, everybody needs a financial plan.
Even if I don't invest?
Everybody still needs a financial plan.
Oh, okay.
I hope the people listening to the show don't get the impression that they have to invest to get a financial plan.
Yeah.
I'm offering a written financial plan at no cost whatsoever. I'd like you to do business with me if you have investments, but you don't have to. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I promote the fact that everybody requires and needs a financial plan because that's what ties everything together for you.
Okay.
It ties everything, all the steps in the financial planning process. There's 10 steps. It ties the whole 10 steps together in a document, which is a bridge from where you are right now to where you want to go financially.
Oh, okay. I guess I should make an appointment then.
Yeah, so call Frida. You can reach Frida right now, area code 604-737-3512.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Maddie, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And Fred,
yeah.
I've mentioned it on your show before. I've done plenty of wills for people who had no assets, but
Sure.
they felt compelled to document their wishes.
Well, why would let's talk about that. Somebody has no assets. Why do they need a will?
Well, let's think about what are the basics in a will. You're going to appoint someone to look after your affairs, but if there is no assets, well then you appoint someone to look after your children, but they might be old enough that that isn't an issue, or you may not have children.
And that person's called a guardian, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And then you might establish trusts. Trusts are where you pay money out over time to a beneficiary. But again, if there's no assets, there's no trusts. So I guess it might come down to perhaps funeral wishes are often documented in a will.
Okay.
But sometimes you don't get to the will until long after the person has their remains have been dealt with. So
Well, I had to make a decision on behalf of a client one time who called me and said, my mother just died, and I don't know. I don't know what she wants done with her body. What should I do? That's a tough call.
That's a tough call. That's why you should make sure that your beneficiaries and the people you love know where to find that will.
Okay, keep that thought in mind, and when we come back, we'll pursue that further. We have to go to the break. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
I want people to call the show that are genuinely interested in increasing their financial IQ so that they can become financially independent sooner and stay financially independent longer.
Fred Snyder.
You don't have a blueprint. Imagine trying to build a house without a blueprint. And how about having a blueprint for your life? What are your lifestyle goals? You need to think about your family life. What are your goals about your family life? What are your lifestyle goals when it comes to health? What are your lifestyle goals when it comes to finances, mental and spiritual? You have to set goals in all those areas, not just finances.
Fred Snyder.
Often we fail because we put too much emphasis on one area and ignore everything else. We work our butts off and we ruin our health. So life is all about balance. So you need a life plan.
Fred Snyder.
Napoleon Hill says this, wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. Anything that you can vividly imagine, ardently desire, and enthusiastically act upon will inevitably come to pass.
Fred Snyder.
My goal, my mission is to help people enhance their financial IQs by teaching them what they need to know to make better financial decisions.
Fred Snyder, Saturday mornings at 8 and Sunday mornings at 10 on Smooth and Easy, CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. This is It's Your Money on CIL 650. Here once again is Fred Snyder.
Okay, we're back. We're live. I really mean that. We are alive. This is a live show, and we share this show with you, our listeners. Excuse me. And we need you to make a call. We want to have conversations with you about your money, and more importantly, about your money and how to keep it. We've been talking about the financial plan, and part of the financial plan is estate planning, and that's our focus today. So again, I'm going to jump over here to estate planning. And these are some of the topics that we try to touch on. We define what estate planning is. Estate planning is arranging your affairs so that they're transitioned to your beneficiaries without undue stress, without your beneficiaries fighting over the money, without the government.
Oh, they're good at that.
Oh, and they are for sure, and without the government grabbing it all in taxes. And we've been talking about WESA and how WESA has made changes in that particular area. So estate planning is really transferring assets to beneficiaries. And you can do that with your will. You can do joint ownership and by gifting. These are all issues that we need to talk about. So we've had a case recently where a lady wants to give some money to her grandchildren. And she's got a portfolio of assets where she has some unrealized capital gains. Substantial amount. If she gives assets away, what happens? What's the process? That's considered to be what? A disposition?
That's right.
So to give assets away, you're deemed to have sold those assets when ownership changes. And when you sell assets that have a profit, you trigger what's known as a capital gain.
And most people are familiar with that term this week as everybody's getting down to the crunch for tax time.
So a capital gain is a good and a bad thing at the same time, because a capital gain, unlike interest income, is only 50% taxable. So that means that half of the capital gain is tax-free and the other half is taxable. And if you own assets jointly, it passes to the joint owner.
The survivor.
Yeah. And there can be tax there too, right?
In some cases there can be, yes.
Yes. Okay.
But generally, the survivor takes over. And for example, with your principal residence, you would show up at the land title office with the death certificate of the deceased, or you do it through a lawyer's or a notary's office, and the deceased drops from title. And the successor, the person who's still alive, just carries on with the full ownership of that property just in their name.
Okay, let's take some calls. Let's talk to Tracy from Vancouver. Tracy, welcome to the program.
Good morning, you guys.
Good morning, Tracy. How you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. I tuned in late, so I don't know if you've covered this or not.
I don't mind recovering it.
The budget came down last week, Monday or whatever it was, and I wanted to check: does it have to be approved by some other agency before it goes into effect? In other words, I have another $4,500 that I could put in my TFSA, but I don't want to do it and then get some kind of...
Well, that's, Tracy, this is a really good question because I've had several calls on this particular issue, people wanting to put more money into their TFSA. Mm-hmm. Now, my understanding of the law is that the budget is a proposal. It's got to be ratified by Parliament. So really, the increase in the TFSA is not law. I don't think, anyway.
It's generally a speech made that sets out the government's initiatives moving forward.
So
financial initiatives.
So if somebody made if you made a contribution to a TFSA right now, it will probably be an overcontribution at this particular point.
Good. Okay.
Now, I'm not 100% sure on what I'm saying, but I'm pretty sure that what I'm saying is accurate.
Right. Will you be making an announcement on the show when you...
I will do next week's show. I will do on the budget.
Oh, excellent.
I planned on doing it on this show, and I just didn't get a chance to prepare.
Okay, great.
But the budget, again, remember one thing. Technically, the budget itself is a proposal. It needs to be ratified by Parliament.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't. I just wanted to check with you.
I've heard stories of some financial institutions advising clients to put more money in right now.
Okay.
I'd be afraid to do it because I might expose them to an overcontribution penalty.
Right.
Then I'd be considered a bad guy, and I don't want that.
No, and you're not a bad guy. You're a good guy. Okay. Well, listen, you two, Tim and Fred, have a great weekend, and thanks a lot for
Tracy,
answering my question.
Can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Okay. Thanks.
You take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, if you just tuned in, Tracy's line is now open, and of course, we do have open lines, and we're talking about estate planning, and we're talking about transferring assets to beneficiaries. In a way, that's really what estate planning is, in a nutshell.
Yes, it is.
It's how you transfer your assets to the next generations, your children, your grandchildren, and so on. We have this issue of enduring power of attorney. Let's suppose that someone decides to transfer assets to beneficiaries, and they just go ahead and do it, and they're deemed to be mentally incompetent. Would that be a valid transfer?
It should not be. And I've recently had to help a woman back out of a real estate transaction where she felt a little pressured, forgive me for saying so, by the realtors to sell this property. And then we found out that she didn't have mental capacity. We had her psychiatrist produce a letter. The buyer walked away, and I guess the realtors felt a little sheepish, but I didn't have much sympathy for them in that case. But we were able to reverse a what otherwise would have been a valid contract of purchase and sale for her property.
Okay, and that problem could have been solved if what? If she had an enduring power of attorney?
She actually had one, and I presented that to the realtors as well, showing that her nephew had in fact taken over her affairs.
And it still didn't fly then, or what?
They said, well, the power of attorney works for the attorney, but it also works for the donor carrying on their affairs without the attorney. But I said, in this case, that's not the case because this woman lacked the capacity. So her affairs were handed off to her nephew.
So with the word a power of attorney and an enduring power of attorney are two different things. Power of attorney gives someone else the capacity to act on your behalf. An enduring power of attorney gives someone else the power to act on your behalf if you're mentally incompetent.
That's right.
okay? And everybody should have an enduring power of attorney.
And a representation agreement.
Yeah.
And a will. And we
So
generally...
there's three instruments. Those are three tools in estate planning that need to be used.
That's right. And perhaps a trust maybe set up while you're still alive.
Yeah.
If you want to look after someone, but want that gift to be spread over time, or that gift to be made when certain conditions exist.
Pretty deep stuff, isn't it?
Yep.
Let's take some calls. Let's talk to Yvette from Nanaimo. Yvette, welcome to the program.
Yes. Hi, Fred and guests.
Yes.
Can you clarify something for your listeners?
Sure.
Sometimes some people don't want to make a will because they think it's too expensive. Can you sort of give your audience an average price? I know there's a lower price than an average and a higher one depending on the complexity of the will. But if a person knew roughly an average, they wouldn't be so scared of the price, and they probably would make a will.
Well, that's why everybody should call this show and get the book that I'm giving away, because that will cover all that kind of stuff. But does a will have to be expensive?
No, it does not need to be. I know that there are law firms and notaries here in the city that will do them for maybe $300. And that's a good
And that's
deal.
not really expensive.
Yeah. So that would probably motivate people to go and get a will done.
And if you want to do a will cheap, there's nothing to stop you from doing your own. You can Google it. You can get documents on the internet. You can probably do your own. But
No, but it may
lawyers
not
don't
be done-
recommend that.
It may not be done properly
That's correct.
and would cause more problems down the road.
It might.
That's why people need this subject that we're talking about today is extremely important, because there's a lot of lack of knowledge out there when it comes to this particular topic. Tremendous lack of knowledge. I think it's safe to say that easily 50% of the people listening to this show right now need an update on their will, or need a will. They don't even have one to begin with. So if you don't have a will or you need an update, it's time to make a phone call. I had a client call me after our last show and said, I never realized the mess I was in until I heard your show. And I referred him to you.
And certainly I hear a lot of misconceptions about the probate, probating a will, and how difficult and complicated that can be. And that can all be helped and assisted if the deceased actually did some estate planning, turned their mind to their assets, made it easy for their personal representative to find out what those assets are, where those assets are, and put it all together in a place where, when you're dead, someone can find it.
And that leads us to a good question. Where should you keep your will? Let's finish. Yvette, does that handle your question?
Yes, it helps. Well, I knew part of the answer, but I think your audience kind of needed that clarification.
Appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye for now. So Yvette's line is now open. So ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, give us a call. We're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. Let's talk to Helen from Richmond. Helen, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred. Good morning to
Good morning,
both of
Helen.
you. I just wondered if a Canadian buys a house in Point Roberts, can they only live there 6 months, and what are the tax implications and so on, if it's in your estate or if you sell it? Or
I don't know if I can answer the whole question, but I can answer some of it. I'll answer the tax part of it. If you're a Canadian resident, you're required to pay tax on your world income in any country. It doesn't matter where you made the money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a profit on the place in Point Roberts, it's not your principal residence. So if you sell it, you could make a capital gain. You would be required to pay taxes to Canada, minus any.
And the U.S.?
And if the U.S. charged any tax, you'd get a credit for that tax against the Canadian tax.
Hmm.
That's the way that would work.
But and living there is just part of the year.
Yeah. Now, I just got an email here from a client, and pardon me if I just interrupt for just 1 second. Client just emailed me and says, according to can't read it here, effective immediately according to CIBC or CBC News. Okay, so it's effective immediately. Hasn't been ratified. But
You mean
TFSA
the
increase,
in the TFSA?
Yeah. So that flies in the face of what I know.
Oh well, someone's on the ball. Someone caught us.
Well, Well, we admit it. We weren't 100% sure.
No.
Okay. And we don't pretend we are. So, Helen, basically, any does that answer your question?
Well, kind of.
Okay. Well, the other part of the question was about whether you can cross border on those kind of things. There's part of that question I didn't understand, and I kind of forget your question. So would you just repeat it again?
Well, I was wondering how long you can live there.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Do you know the answer to that?
That's not my wheelhouse. I'm sorry.
I don't think that if I had a property in the United States, I don't think I could live there beyond the 6 months that I'm required to, though. I don't think that would get around the law.
I think that's a U.S. immigration question more so.
Yeah.
For a person to stop being a resident of Canada takes real concerted effort. Lots of people want to stop being a resident of Canada because they think Canada has too high taxes. You've heard about people moving to those offshore haven type countries.
Mm-hmm.
But that involves a lot of planning, and there's some very expensive tax lawyers out there who will guide you through that.
Yeah.
But from a tax point of view, if you're a Canadian resident, you're required to pay tax to Canada on your world income. Doesn't matter where you make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point to remember.
Yeah. And on the TFSA, it is now $10,000.
According to one of my listeners who just sent me an email.
Okay,
and
great.
It was a text message that said, according to CBC News, it's effective immediately.
Okay. Thank you both.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
That
Bye-bye.
text message you received, Fred, it just shows you how people should be meeting with their financial planners more often.
There's no question. Absolutely. Like, this particular issue really flies in the face of my logic, because that needs to be ratified. How can the Conservative government make that law immediately without debate?
That's probably a separate topic for next week when you talk about the budget.
I don't think that Justin Trudeau would necessarily agree with that. He might. Okay. Bottom line is, I think there has to be debate. That's almost like Obama, with all his legislation that he's bringing out on his own without debate. That's the bottom line. So again, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, the number to call is area code 604-280-0650. If you're calling long distance, it's 877-280-0650. You can log on, www.cil650.com. Frida's down at the office for those who are shy, reluctant to talk on the air. Area code 604-737-3512. Long distance 800-661-1495. We have a seminar coming up soon. The seminar is going to be 41 ways to ease the tax bite. We'll probably also talk about the new budget at that seminar as well. Our next show I will do on the next budget. Okay? And we'll see what goodies there are in there for everybody. Okay? Bottom line is, it's about your money and how to keep it. And one of the best ways to keep your money is to find ways to invest money that you'd normally pay out in income tax. So find a way to mitigate the tax bite. That's what it's all about. So enduring powers of attorney is a document which allows you to make financial decisions, or allows somebody to make financial decisions on your behalf if you become mentally incompetent. So if my wife were to pass away, as an example, I can't manage her affairs. I'm not allowed to, unless I have an enduring power of attorney.
The power of attorneys drop when your wife dies. So a lot of people show up with a power of attorney hoping to deal with a deceased assets based on that power of attorney. But those powers of attorney, they fall and effectively become useless when the donor dies. So that's why it's more important than ever.
If my wife becomes mentally incompetent, I can't manage her affairs unless I have an enduring power of attorney.
Yeah,
or vice versa.
That's right. And what it comes down to, is it going to be the bank? Is it going to be a government agency? Is it going to be a financial institution of some sort that says, what authority do you have, Fred, to deal with your wife's affairs? And that's why it's important that people get themselves organized with the representation agreements, with those powers of attorneys, with those wills. And let's just talk very quickly about the difference between a representation agreement and the power of attorney. And you've said it best in previous shows. The powers of attorneys are handling your wealth And your representation agreements are documents that say, here's what I'd like to have someone look after my health if I can't do so much.
Your health and your wealth.
Yeah.
So your health is the representation agreement.
That's right.
Okay, so...
And financial affairs are handled generally with the powers of attorneys.
So if today I would think that anybody who went to a lawyer for help with their will, the lawyer would talk to them about enduring powers of attorney and representation agreements almost automatically.
And wills and perhaps some inter vivos trusts.
Okay.
Inter vivos trust being a trust that's created while you're still living, and a trust is a it's a term that people think is for fancy people or rich people, but what it means, it's an arrangement or an agreement or a relationship between someone who's managing the money and someone who's benefiting from that money.
Now, I had a client that I recommended set up a trust, and her lawyer wanted to charge her $20,000 for a trust. Ouch.
No comment, Fred.
Yeah,
it wasn't me.
I know it wasn't you. But again, a trust should cost, in my view, somewhere between $2,000–$4,000 maybe, depending on how complex it is. Not $20,000. That's outrageous. And I said that, not you.
Okay.
Let's talk to Lori from Delta. Lori, welcome to the program.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Lori.
Fred, I'd like to know where you are located. Are you downtown as well?
Well, I'm downtown on the corner of Broadway and Granville, right over Chapters, 8th floor. And there's parking for clients. If you come to the office, you go into the basement, we have a reserved parking place for clients. So you could just drive right there. You don't get in that downtown traffic. We're just on the fringe.
Oh.
So we avoid the downtown traffic.
I see.
And so it won't cost you anything to park.
Were you in White Rock at one time?
Pardon me?
Were you in White Rock?
Never in White Rock, no.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd like to have your will catches, whatever, because I need information about the probate fees and things like that.
Okay, well, I can tell you right on the air, it's very, very simple. The answer to your question to avoid probate fees is to make sure you have beneficiaries or own assets jointly with rights of survivorship. Those are the two ways to bypass probate. If anything ends up in your estate, that's subject to probate. That'll cost you 1.4% in British Columbia. Okay, and Tim should be answering those questions, not me. That's his job. Okay, let's talk to. Anyway, before we move along, Lori, any other questions?
Well, I have quite a few, but I don't think I can get.
I don't know that we have
on
enough
the
time.
air. I'm
Yeah.
listening to you, and there's so many.
But if you want to make an appointment to see me, give Frida a call. You can reach Frida right now. Area code 604-737-3512. And again, she'll enroll you in our next workshop as well.
Oh, okay. All
Okay.
right, then I'll call her.
Okay, Lori, can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we're starting to run out of time. We must sign off by 8:58. Okay, let's talk to Rick from Victoria. Rick, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred. How are you?
Pretty good, Rick. How are you?
I'm really good. So my one question is kind of related. Like, I just sold my house, and I have a lump sum of money that at current time I'm not putting back into another house, so I'm renting for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, where can I put it that it's not locked away? Like, I don't really want to put that into an RSP or anything, so where can I put it temporarily, meaning a year or
You want a place to park the money.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is you can't get much of a return if it's parked. I can't think of anything that's going to be, if you're looking at a year, you can get a liquid GIC that's cashable anytime. You can probably get 1.5% the most.
And that's the best.
That's the best. And that's taxable, fully taxable.
Right.
So
but
if you're
where is there, like, what, when you're talking about how long term would it be locked away that you wouldn't have?
Well, if you're going to invest the money, it should be invested for at least 5 years.
No kidding.
And that seems like too long for you.
Yeah, it does.
You could put the money into something that would be long term that you could use as collateral, set up a line of credit, borrow money on the line of credit, but you're increasing risk when you use borrowed funds to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
But really, it sounds to me, again, you're a perfect candidate for a written financial plan. And your goal is, I want to buy a house. What's the plan? I got some cash. What's the plan?
Okay. All right.
So really, it's a financial document that lays out the options and strategies that you need to use to get into that next house.
Right. Okay.
So that, do you have a plan right now, a written financial plan?
I don't have one the way I'm sure you have, you're talking about.
Well, you need one. That's the bottom line. So if you give Frida a call, come in and see me and we'll set one up. There's no cost and there's no obligation.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. Take care.
Thanks so much, Fred.
Okay. So again, any callers who called the show, you got to call Frida to get the book, the will kit. Okay? This explains everything that we're talking about on this show and much, much more. You get a seat at our next workshop if you call Frida. You get a written financial plan, no cost or obligation. You get a second opinion on your investment portfolio in writing. Okay? Just takes a phone call. And the number to call is area code 604-737-3512. If it's long distance, it's 800-661-1495. You can listen to this show again tomorrow morning between 10 and 11. And Frida will be down at the office again. If you want to respond to anything that you hear on this show, give her a call. Make an appointment. Come and see me. Get your future going today. Bye for now.
If you'd like Fred to review your portfolio, call his office right now at 604-737-3512. That's